I guess Amigo, the people that make those shopping carts that's right up underneath that sign. How's your voter remorse doing you today? I just thought I'd ask, 'cause I'll tell you what. I've told people on Twitter you're making a mistake. Did they listen to me? Nah, they they complained, got me shut down. I opened another one, they shut me down. I'd open another one, and then another one, and then another one. So finally, they shut me down this year. I really don't care. Hell, they shut Google Plus down on everybody.
Or the same objective. And so, in that sense, it's an incredibly powerful institution in and of itself. Now, it's true, it doesn't possess its own regulatory powers, it doesn't possess its own authority to actually make things happen. But it has the ability to bring together this huge coalition. They refer to themselves as stakeholders. They're all stakeholders: governments, corporations, special interest groups.
That's their favorite word. They want stakeholder capitalism, where the stakeholders, i.e., them, control capitalism.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's what they're moving toward right now. They really want to completely reshape the global economy toward this idea of stakeholder capitalism. And part of what that means, they want to switch over to this model of environmental and social and governance, this ESG metric, where, in my view, it's very fascistic, right? In a free market system, companies have an obligation to serve their shareholders, and they have an obligation to serve their customers. That's how they make money and serve their shareholders. And so companies have an incentive to do things that are productive, to do them efficiently, to do things that people want done, and to do them in a way that doesn't violate the law, that doesn't infringe on the rights of anybody else, because then they'll end up in a lawsuit losing shareholder money. And so that's not a good use of shareholder money. And so that has created more wealth than any other system or non-system in all of human history. I mean, we saw the prosperity levels in America absolutely explode beyond anything that humanity had ever seen in a very brief period of just a couple of centuries. Historically speaking, that's a very small window. And so that system has served us very well. But the World Economic Forum, as part of this broader global agenda that they're referring to as the Great Reset, they want to completely restructure the global economic system. They're saying that that pursuit of shareholder value is by accident, maybe, but still happening, destroying the environment, destroying human rights, and destroying social justice. And so we need to reshape the entire system. And that's one of their big agendas. And I think that's one of the roles that they're playing. They're bringing all these very influential corporations and governments to the table. And we were talking about this a little bit before we went live, Josh, and that is the implementation of the UN's Agenda 2030. The WEF actually years ago came out and openly partnered with the United Nations in bringing the business community to the table on the implementation of Agenda 2030, which really is a radical plan to restructure every element of life that goes right in with the Great Reset that World Economic Forum Klaus Schwab is peddling and has been peddling for some time. So clearly it's a significant organization. It's not a smoky room, shadowy club that secretly runs the world. I don't think that's an accurate perspective, either for World Economic Forum or even for Bilderberg. But to suggest that it doesn't have any power, that it's just kind of a sideshow, a club for people to have fun, that really downplays it in a way that I think is not accurate.
Has a right to decide whether or not the property meets their individual needs. And if not, they have a right to look elsewhere. We don't tell people where they have to live in this country. That we're free to live wherever we can afford to live and wherever we choose to. The tenant has a right to inspect the premises inside and out, and then decide if they want to apply to live there. Again, we're free in this country. We don't take the property away by force. The tenant has the right to negotiate with the landlord on the terms and the price of the lease agreement. And if we think the rent's too high or we don't like the location, you don't have to live there. There's plenty of places to live out there right now. You have a right as a tenant to know that the landlord is required to make repairs. This is the basis of Georgia law, is that the landlord must repair, the tenant must pay rent. That's the entire law summed up. I know you have a couple.
Global assets have been berated by rising interest rates and persisting hawkishness among central banks. All that to be said, guys, is that right now we are seeing a situation where we really got to be mindful. Remember I told you guys about the whole idea of getting yourself some silver and gold? Rebecca Wells said, did UK banks already go down? As far as I understand, they did. They had a bond. One of what they consider to be like their Fed Reserve went in and central bank went in and propped them up overnight and kind of made it look like everything was fine when everything opened. But I will let you know that, yeah, it's coming, guys. We're all we're all still cooking in the kitchen while the house is on fire, and nobody wants to pay attention to that. This is the time right now that we see that there's so much more going on here. It is absolutely ridiculous. I know that we keep thinking that everything's going to be okay and there's not going to be that big of a drop, or we might do this or might that, but I just don't see how we get away with it, guys. Bundy Cobb just put this out 7 hours ago. He said the Supreme Court of Georgia on Friday ruled that Douglas County Board of Elections and Registration lacks authority to put Democrat Ryan Williams on the ballot for Chief Magistrate Judge. The ruling appears to leave incumbent Republican Chief Magistrate Judge Susan Camp as the only candidate on the ballot in November 8th general election. Wow. Well, good for them. They actually stood up and did something. Wait until the government confiscates everyone's savings to fix the economy. Didn't they do something like that during the whole war thing and the gold exchange and said that owning gold or silver was illegal? Didn't we have that whole thing go on? What was that? What was that whole thing? That let's see, what was going on? It was so don't worry about that. That's never happened in our history, has it? Wait, yeah, it actually has. We've already done this once before. But Bundy Cobb released that. Thank you for putting that out, Bundy Cobb. I appreciate you doing that, sir. And I don't see him on the show right now, but I wanted to make sure that if he does watch later, that he hears about that. Oh, there was something else. Okay, remember we've had this conversation. I said, listen, guys, things are happening. Things are going on. Pay attention. Be mindful. Blah, 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 right? Well, let me go and look this article up real quick. I want you guys. Hold on a second here. All right. I sent this to Dr. Douglas Frank, actually, and it's from the Conservative Brief. And we always talk about this election things. Nothing's happening, right? Nothing's happening. There's no arrests. There's no convictions. Unicorns fly, whatever it is, right? Election worker charged with 2 felonies over alleged voting equipment tampering, September 29th, 2022. Well, that would have been yesterday, okay? And it says a volunteer election worker in Michigan has been charged with 2 felony charges after allegedly inserting a personal USB drive into a precinct computer during the August 2nd primary. Now, August 2nd. I mean, I'm going to have to look at my little calendar here. This must be like a year ago, right? August 2nd. I mean, what day are we in? September 30th. August 2nd, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 7 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago. Huh. So August 2nd, and they had a primary, and there's already been a conviction? That's pretty significant. Kent County prosecutor Chris Becker announced he charged James Donald Holkbor, maybe that's why he did it, because he just didn't like his last name, with falsifying election records and using a computer to commit a crime in the incident. If convicted, so he's just been charged. So he hasn't been convicted, but he's been charged. Okay? If convicted of the charges, he would face up to 9 years in prison. The incident highlights a so-called insider threat risk that has increasingly worried election officials, especially in battleground states like Michigan, where falsehoods about some systemic voter fraud in the 2020 election have spread most widely. The election worker was seen by a witness at the precinct in Gaines Township inserting a USB drive into the electronic poll box. I thought you couldn't plug things into these things. I thought they were so magical and sealed by this, this like cocoon of security, and there's nothing you can do. You can't get in there. There's all this impenetrable, it's like a safe. Let's go here to the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. U.S. office announced that Michael Ozzie Myers pled guilty to conspiring to illegally vote in a federal election and deprive civil rights voting record. Oh my gosh! Hold on a second. This is bigger than I thought. Here, hold on a second. Listen. Eastern District of Pennsylvania U.S. Attorney's Office announced that Michael Myers pled guilty. So he's pled guilty to all of these charges. Hold on. Conspiring to illegally vote in a federal election, deprive civil rights, voting records falsification, bribery, obstruction of justice, orchestrating ballot stuffing schemes, and the Pennsylvania's. Okay, so we got 6 different charges. He pled guilty to 6 different charges, right? By the way, when you're counting, when you're counting death numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because that's B. Anyway, so hold on a second. Years. So of the 6 things he did it in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. That's 5 years in a row this guy did it. 5 years. Myers served in the U.S. House from 1976 to 1980 before being expelled. Okay, guys, I thought I had, they wrote some stuff about me that wasn't was not factually accurate, but this guy has actually been to prison for this and is going to prison. Myers served in the House from 1976 to 1980 for 4 years before being expelled for bribery. He was sent to prison for 3 years after the FBI launched an investigation into him. So this guy got thrown out of the House in Pennsylvania for bribery. Myers' bribery, then Philadelphia election judge Dominic DeMauro, to stuff ballot. So Myers bribed an election judge to stuff ballots in support of a specific candidate, according to a 2020 indictment. DeMauro pled guilty to that a year ago. So wait, so the judge Dominic DeMauro, he pled guilty a year ago, and Myers is pled guilty to these 6 charges for 6 different years. Oh, wow. So anyway, United States Attorney Jacqueline Romero announced today that former U.S. Congressman Michael Ozzie Myers, 79, God dang, of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, was sentenced to 30 months in prison. That's going to make you're going to spend your 80th year in prison. 30 months, huh? Wow. Okay.
Allow the energy supplies to increase all of last year. Instead, the Biden administration wants to wean the country off of fossil fuels and toward clean. And when you restrict the supply of anything, the price is going to go up. And the energy inflation is feeding the overall inflation that we do have today. So we need to reverse the energy policy. We're producing now about 1.5 million barrels fewer per day today than we were during the peak prior to the pandemic. So we can produce more, and that's really the long-term answer to reducing energy inflation and getting much of the other inflation under control.
The rape of the American mind. Keep that in mind here, okay? You've bombarded on minute by minute on the radio, on the TV, by mass media, on the internet, by images and sounds, which I call political cartoons. And your mind is being raped. It's called mind control and subliminal advertising. They feed you a line of bullshit and you swallow it. They're raping your mind with bullshit. So what do you think about that?